Yamunatiravanachari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Gopi Bharatari Gopitana Vallabha Giri Bharadhari Gopitana Vallabha Giri Bharadhari Yashodanandana Braja Jana Ranjana Yashodanandana Braja Jana Ranjana Yamunatira Vanachari Yamunatira Vanachari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Go Premanande Haribo Dayom Vishnu Paraparamhamsa Parivrajacharya Stodhara Shatishishmar is divine grace. A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Dayom Vishnu Paraparamhamsa Parivrajacharya Stodhara Shatishishmar Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Goswami Maharaj Prabhupada ki jai. Ananta Koti Vaishnavinda ki jai. Namacharya Srila Haridas Thakur ki jai. Prem se kaho Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Har Shiva Sari Gaura Bhakta Vrinda ki jai. Shri Radha Krishna Gopi Govindam Shamakun Varakund Gibi Govardhan ki jai, Shri Vrindavan Dham ki jai, Navadvip Dham ki jai, Mathura Dham ki jai, Jagannath Dham ki jai, Gangamaya Yamuna Maya ki jai, Tulasi Devi ki jai, Bhakti Devi ki jai, Samaveta Bhakta Vrinda ki jai. Nitai Gaura Premanande Hari Hari Bo. Oh, glorious to the assembled devotees. Oh, glorious to the assembled devotees. Oh, glorious to the assembled devotees. Oh, glorious to Shri Guru and Shri Gauranga. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Reading from Srimad Bhagavatam, first canto creation, chapter 16, how Parikshit received the age of Kali. So, we're in text 23. Yadvamba te bhuri bharavatara kritavatarasya Hare Dharitri Antahitasya Smarati Visrishta Karmani Nirvana Vilambitani Yadvambate bhuri bhara vataram कृतावतारस्य हरे धरित्री अंतर्हितस्य स्मरति विशिष्टा कर्माणि निर्वाण विलंबितानि यद्वांबते भूरि भरावतार कृतावतारस्य हरे धरित्री अंतर्हितस्य स्मरति विशिष्टा कर्माणि निर्वाण विलंबितानि यद्वांबते भूरि भरावतारम् कृतावतारस्य हरे धरित्री अंतर्हितस्य स्मरति विशिष्टा कर्माणि निर्वाण विलंबितानि
Yadvambate Buri Bharavatara
यद्वांबते भूरि भरावतारम्
Kritaavatarasya Harer Daritri
कृतावतारस्य हरे धरित्री
Antarhitasya Smarati Visvishta
अंतर्हितस्य स्मरति विशिष्टा
Karmani Nirvana Vilambitani
कर्माणि निर्वाण विलंबितानि
Yadvambate Bhuri Bharavatara Kritaavatarasya Hare Daritri Antarhitasya Smarati Vishishta Karmani Nirvana Vilambitani
Yadvambate Bhuri Bharavatara
वाम्बते भूरि भरावतार
Kritaavatarasya Harer Daritri Antarhitasya Smriti Vishishta
अंतर्हितस्य स्मरति विशिष्टा
Karmani Nirvana Vilambitani
कर्माणि निर्वाण विलंबितानि
Yadvambate Bhuri Bharavatara
यद्वांबते भूरि भरावतारम्
Kritaavatarasya Hare Daritri Antarhitasya Smarati Vishishta Karmani Nirvana Vilambitani
Yadvambate Bhuri Bharavatara Kritaavatarasya Harer Daritri Antarhitasya Smarati Vishishta Karmani Nirvana Vilambitani
Yadvambate Bhuri Bharavatara Kritaavatarasya Harer Dharitri Antarhitasya Smarati Vishishta Karmani nirvana vilambitani.
Yavamvate Puri Paravatara Kritavatarasya Harir Daritri Antarhitasya Smarati Vishvishta Karmani Nirvana Vilambitani.
Okay. Yadva, that may be. Amba, O Mother, Te, your, Buri, heavy, Bhara, load, Avatara, decreasing the load, Krita, done, Avatarasya, one who incarnated, Harehe, of Lord Shri Krishna, Daritri, O earth, Antahritasya, of him who is now out of sight, Smarati, while thinking of Rishishta, all that were performed, Karmani, activities, Nirvana, salvation, Vilambitani, that which entails. Translation and purport by His Divine Grace, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. O Mother Earth, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Hari, incarnated himself as Lord Shri Krishna, just to unload your heavy burden. All his activities here are transcendental, and they cement the path of liberation. You are now bereft of his presence. You are probably now thinking of those activities and feeling sorry in their absence. Purport. The activities of the Lord include liberation, but they are more relishable than the pleasure derived from nirvana or liberation. According to Srila Jiva Goswami and Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur, the word used here is nirvana vilambitani, that which minimizes the value of liberation. To attain nirvana, liberation, one has to undergo a severe type of tapasya, austerity. But the Lord is so merciful that he incarnates to diminish the burden of the earth. Simply by remembering such activities, one can defy the pleasure derived from nirvana and reach the transcendental abode of the Lord to associate with him, eternally engage in his blissful, loving service. Om Ajnanatimirandhasya Jnanam Jana Shalakaya Chakshu Militam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Shri Chaitanya Manobhishtam Stapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Gadamahyam Dadati Swapadantikam Vandeham Shri Guru Shri Utapadakamalam Shri Gurum Vaishnavam Scha Shirupam Sagrajatam Sahagana Raghunatam Vidam Tam Sajivam Sadvaitam Savadutam Parijana Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padam Sahagana Lalita Shri Vishakam Vitamscha He Krishna Karuna Sindhu Dinabandho Jagatpate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namostute Tapta Ganchana Gaurangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Vrishabhanu Sute Devi Pranamami Hari Priye Vanchakalpatarubhyascha Kripa sindhubhya eva cha Patitanam pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo namo namaha. Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shivasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda. Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. Akripadam Bande Shivam Jnatarana Yadvam Bhate Bhuri Paravatara Kritaavatarasya Hare Daritri Antarhitasya Smrati Visishta Karmani Nirvana Vilambitani. O Mother Earth, the Supreme Personality of Godhead Hari, incarnated himself as Lord Shri Krishna just to unload your heavy burden. All his activities here are transcendental, and they cement the path of liberation. You are now bereft of his presence. You are probably now thinking of those activities and feeling sorry in their absence. So, Mother Earth, Bhumi, she's a devotee of Krishna. She's considered one of the wives of Krishna. And actually, she's very fortunate because when Krishna incarnates and he's here, while he's here, she's never separated from him because he's always walking on Mother Earth. His other devotees, they're actually externally feel separation from Krishna when Krishna departs from Vrindavan or when he leaves his wives in Mathura and he goes out and engage in other activities, or when he leaves his mother and father. So, but the earth has constant association with Krishna. So, rightly so, the personified bull or Dharma, who's personified as a bull, is actually hitting on the point of what is actually the cause of the sorrow that the earth is feeling, as was described in a previous couple verses, that Dharma, personified in the form of a bull, saw Mother Earth crying, as dejected, as if she has lost a calf, because she was in the form of a cow, and her bodily beauty and luster was lost. So he was wondering, what is it? Is it all these reasons which he gave, which are the symptoms of Kali Yuga? So all these symptoms of Kali Yuga are actually due to the lack of the presence of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. In fact, anything inauspicious is due to being separated from the Supreme Personality of Godhead. The moment we decide to turn our backs away from Krishna, the material energy captures us and our life of inauspiciousness begins. Krishna Bahimukh Bhogavanchakara Nikatasta Maya Dhyakare. As soon as we turn away our back, Krishna, Maya is ready to capture us like this. And then we're in for a ride. And it's inauspicious from beginning to end. And actually these bodies are a disturbance from beginning to end. And from the time we take birth, or even before that, even when we're in the womb, although we don't remember, it's described in the Srimad Bhagavatam, the suffering that the living entity goes to. And then we come out, and again, although we had some kind of realizations in the womb, if we were lucky, about how we should not waste our human form of life and will surrender this time, we forget. That's the jiva's position, because he's overwhelmed by his desire to be envious to Krishna. He tends to forget the ultimate goal of life. So it's a constant struggle in this material world. So, particularly, the age of Kali is advent very quickly as soon as Krishna departs. And we've been reading, actually, these last couple of chapters, so many chapters, illustrating this point, beginning from chapter, I think 14, when Krishna actually leaves, the disappearance of Lord Krishna, and I think it's Yudhisthira who sees all these different omens. Yeah, it's Yudhisthira who sees all these different omens due to the lack of the presence of Krishna, and he becomes worried after he sends Arjuna to go check, and Arjuna doesn't come back, and he starts seeing all these inauspicious things due to the symptoms of Kali Yuga coming in. Because the more separated we are from Krishna, the more these inauspicious things come. And in Satya Yuga, Treta Yuga, Dwarpa Yuga, and Kali Yuga, the symptoms become more and more rampant. Because in Satya Yuga, they're connected to Krishna through all the religious principles that they're following. The personified bull has all 4 legs in Satya Yuga, but then he starts losing a leg in every yuga. And these 4 legs represent the principles of religion. But in Kali Yuga, the only leg standing is a little bit of truthfulness. People value a little bit of truthfulness in Kali Yuga. A little bit, not too much is there. Even that leg is wobbly. So, because we're so away from religious principles in Kali Yuga, all these symptoms are here. Because we can remain connected to Krishna through his instructions, through following the principles of religion with proper understanding. And even if we follow religious principles without understanding that they're meant for Krishna or they're coming from Krishna, and therefore we should follow them because they're coming from Krishna, given by Krishna, then we will eventually break those principles. They become washed down. People may be religious for some time, but the moment you take out God, who is the purpose of these religions, people begin to deviate from them. And therefore, it becomes Shrama eva hi kevalam dharmasvanusita pumsa vikshvaksena katayuha notpadayedeti ratam Shrama eva hi kevalam. All these principles given by Krishna, or Dharma, the laws of nature, as were given or ordained by the Supreme Personality of Godhead, if they don't actually inculcate the purpose, which is to develop our relationship and love to Krishna, then they become useless. They become useless in the sense that they don't achieve the goal, and people also see them as useless. That's another way of seeing it. It's not that people begin to reject those religious principles because they forgot the whole purpose of them. You think the purpose is economic development, you think it's sense gratification, or if you think it's liberation, then you'll be misled. What is it? You think if it's just for the sake of religion, just for the sake of some cultural thing, then you eventually will reject these things. Actually, you will not follow them properly. This is another way of saying you're rejecting. Just like in today's society, many people claim to follow some kind of culture or religion, but they don't actually follow it properly. They follow it according to their own whims because they've forgotten the purpose of those religions. It's like many people from India come to the temple and say, oh, I like how you guys are propagating Hindu Dharma or Hindu culture. I say, what is the purpose of culture? Can you answer this one question? You're so enthused to follow religion and culture. I say, what is the purpose of it? What is the purpose? Can you answer that one question? And they say, whoa, hold on. Never thought about such question. You know, although they're I'm so happy you're doing the Hindu culture and Hindu religion. I said, first of all, what's the purpose of culture? What is the point of it? Why are you so investing so much of your energy in this? What's the point? And usually they don't know. They forget, actually. They get entrapped. They think it's just some entertainment, some social thing. It's, beneficial in some mundane way. But they forget that actually real culture is meant to cultivate love of God, help us come closer to Krishna. That's the purpose of religion and of all culture. But the moment we become devoid of that, irreligion enters. Because Krishna is the source of everything good. He's not only the source of anything good, but he's the source of even liberation, as is explained in this point. Simply by remembering Krishna's pastimes, one achieves liberation by becoming absorbed in these transcendental pastimes. And that's why Krishna comes, is to reveal these transcendental activities. And then he also reveals the process by which to understand them. Because we can misunderstand also, but by the mercy of the acharyas and the teachers who come down on behalf of Krishna and their followers, we're able to understand Krishna's pastimes in truth. And if we understand Krishna's pastime in truth, then no more repeated birth and death. As is stated in Bhagavad Gita, Janma karma chame divyam evam yoveti tatvata tyaktva deham punam jamam naiti mameti sarjuna. So Krishna incarnated himself as Lord Shri Krishna, just to unload your heavy burden. And we see that initially, before Krishna was coming, all the demoniac kings, they were giving the earth a burden by performing so many sinful activities. So Mother Earth came to Lord Brahma and complained. She also transformed herself in the form of a cow and said, Lord Brahma, we need some help. All the demons are very much disturbing. Demoniac kings are polluting the earth. People are going against religious principles, and therefore they're missing the goal of life. They're thinking religion is just for some sense enjoyment, some ritual, just like the demons, very expert in following rituals to get some material boon. But that's not real religion. That's a burden to Mother Earth. She says, that's not my purpose. I'm not giving my resources for this purpose. And she becomes very sad. And she goes to Lord Brahma. And Lord Brahma goes to the milk ocean and prays there. Shirodakashaya Vishnu. And Shirodakashaya Vishnu instructs him that I will come in the form of Lord Krishna, Lord Balaram, like this. You go and tell all the demigods to take birth in the earth and help me in my pastimes. So, his pastimes, when he was here, he killed so many demoniac personalities. We saw, especially with the battle of Jarasandha, he took that opportunity to kill millions of soldiers. When Jarasandha attacked Mathura, he was very happy. He said, all right, Balaram, let's get ready. This is why we came here, to kill all these demoniac personalities and relieve the burden of the earth. So the chariot came down from the sky, and Krishna took arms and weapons, and just him and Balaram alone just annihilated millions of soldiers like nothing, without getting a single scratch or harm on themselves. Because they're the Supreme Personality of God. Who can be the best warriors in existence? God himself. All warriorship comes from him. Everything comes from him. And all incarnations who are so powerful, they're all situated within Krishna. And we see this early on in the Srimad Bhagavatam. In case that point is not clear, that everything, including the incarnations, including religion, Krishna has to be there. The Bhagavatam explains this also. Krishnastu bhagavam swayam. Indriyar vyakilam lokam midriyanti yuge yuge. That is Krishna, who is the avatari. He's not an incarnation, but he's the source of all other avatars. Therefore, when he comes, all auspicious, and they cement the path of liberation, means that eternally the path of liberation is made open through these pastimes, because other people take advantage of it, and still many people after that can take advantage of it afterwards. It's not that those who take shelter of the boat of Krishna's lotus feet and pastimes, when they cross over, they don't actually take the path of liberation with them. They leave it behind for those who can follow. Why they leave it behind? Because the ocean of material suffering actually becomes very insignificant, becomes very small, and they simply have to just step over like this. It becomes small, it shrinks in size. Similarly, the ocean of happiness that one gets by being absorbed in Brahman is compared to the water found in the calf hoof's print. Is insignificant. The devotee even crosses over this so-called happiness that one can derive in liberation. He simply crosses over that. He thinks it's nothing in comparison to my relationship with Krishna. That one is eternally satisfied and has eternally things to look forward to in that relationship. It's just going to keep getting better and better. So the devotee doesn't look back when he crosses over to this material world. He steps over death personified and simply crosses over and goes back to Godhead. So I was thinking how the whole Srimad Bhagavatam, actually this whole canto is just nailing this point of how Krishna is the cause of all auspiciousness, all good, all virtue. He's the cause of all incarnations. Is really establishing his point of his supremacy. We see this in different chapters, how even, what's it called? Vyasadeva was not satisfied. Why? Because he did not directly delineate the pastimes of Krishna. So he missed the whole point. In fact, it's described in the Chaitanya Charitamrita. Without these pastimes, this whole material universe is useless, actually. The whole point of creation is to actually, although it's only happening in one day of Lord Brahma, this is the topmost benefit is when Krishna comes once in a day of Brahma and reveals these pastimes. Now the universe feels like this is why the universe exists, actually. So similarly, Vyasadeva was not feeling satisfied when he gave all these scriptural knowledge, all the pastimes he gave before that, because without properly describing the pastimes of Krishna, he felt like, I missed the point. I did not actually execute my real duty. In fact, Narada Muni says, Jugupsitam. In fact, this is even the most abominable thing, to not directly describe his sweet pastimes. Very clearly for the benefit of the fallen conditioned souls. And again, we hear later on in this Srimad Bhagavatam first canto, Mother Kunti, by which we have prayers, she establishes the point that Krishna is actually, his association is actually the goal of life. Serving him is the goal of life. So much so that to get his association, she's willing to go through any difficulties. If that's what it means to have Krishna association and be able to remember Krishna, then let these calamities that we experience again and again. And therefore, these Pandavas are exalted, liberated souls, and they come to enact these pastimes of Krishna because they're willing to go through it, because they're fixed on serving Krishna as the topmost benefit to life. So everyone in the Srimad Bhagavatam is fixed on this understanding. And we see this again in all these different pastimes, how Krishna is being put as the main thrust of everyone's life. And therefore, they derive even so-called liberation or any other process devoid of Krishna consciousness. So, let's see how much time we have. We have a few minutes. So maybe we can open it up for some quick questions or comments. Yes.
Yeah, my question is, so what should we do when people say that it's all this, that on your point of, culture, what's the point of culture? What do we do when people say that it's all the same thing, culture-wise, and this philosophy of like beauty and variety kind of thing? Because I remember when I was back before, I don't know, I was a young adult, still am a young adult, but I was just beginning my young adulthood, and I was really into this thing where this idea that it's beautiful because it's different. So what do we do with people like that? I mean, what do we say to somebody like that? Because I know that they're on the right path, but it's not totally correct. Where is it? Thank you.
I don't think I understood your question.
Yeah,
Can you rephrase it?
Yeah, so usually when people say it's like it's all the same thing, they mean that like because it's different and it's all speaking on the same subject. You know what I mean? Even though it's different, it's speaking on the same subject. So what do we do when people say something like that? You know, it's all the same stuff. It's just a different lens that people are looking through. What do we say to that? Is that true or is it not true?
There's some validity to that statement.
Oh, okay.
What we're gonna ask them, what is that same thing? What is that thing that ties everything together? It's Krishna ultimately. So everything is Krishna and not Krishna at the same time. So, or in one sense, everything is Krishna and his energy. And his energies are non-different from Krishna in the sense that they cannot exist separately from Krishna. They come from Krishna. Krishna expands in the form of his energies. So they say, yeah, there's some truth to this. But without coming to the point of Krishna, Swayam Bhagavan, then you miss the whole point. You don't know what they mean by same or oneness. Usually, when they think of oneness, they think of some homogeneous blob or something. You know, where we lose our individuality completely, ultimately. But the spiritual world, everything is one and different. One in quality, but different in variety for the sake of transcendental enjoyment. Okay? Yes, Krishna Shravanam Prabhu.
Thank you for your excellent Srimad Bhagavatam class.
Hare Krishna.
Lord Chaitanya and the Panchatattva descend here once in the day of Brahma. So in the other Kali Yugas, there are thousands of other Kali Yugas. Who is the incarnation who propagates the Yuga Dharma, Sankirtan Yagya, and other Kali Yugas?
Well, I don't know. I've heard some things, but I don't know I haven't seen any scriptural evidence for it. So I don't want to speculate. But we can do some more research. I can ask some scholarly devotees and see what they say, and I can let you know. Any other? Okay. Srimad Bhagavatam ki jai. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Pancha kalpa tarubhyascha kripa sindhubhya cha patitanam pavanebhyo vaishnavebhyo namo namaha. So today we have Sunday program. Please be there. And I sent some voice messages to different people. You can please hear them for your services that you have today. I don't have access to my computer right now because people are taking over that house because they're quarantined. Our devotees. So, if you have some, after this, there's some boga in a vehicle, we can quickly bring it.